The people in rural Quebec treasure their lifestyle, where heritage, culture, and community blend with the extraordinary landscape. But sometimes that landscape brings betrayal and devastation beyond anyone's imagination, and one Quebec community is swallowed by the very earth that was its foundation. Saint-Jean-Vianney is just one of the many villages in the heart of the Saguenay region in Quebec. Located 220 kilometers north of Quebec City, by spring of 1971, Saint-Jean-Vianney is still a quaint residential community where everyone knows everyone else. The Alcan aluminum plant provides employment for most families in Saint-Jean-Vianney, many of which live in the new subdivision on the east end of town. The Boilys are one of those families. Marcel Boily works at Alcan, while his wife Gaëtane looks after their 11 children, including 11-year-old Marlène.
Notre maison était unifamiliale.
It was a single-family home. It was like all the others you know on the street where we lived.
Neighbors Huguette Lavoie and Rosaire Couture have been in the subdivision for only 16 months. Saint-Jean-Vianney has given them the opportunity to afford a new home in beautiful surroundings.
Le terrain ne coûtait presque rien.
The land hardly cost anything. In town, it would have cost $3,000 to $4,000 more. Whereas there, we could have a nice house, a fence, a yard, be a homeowner. We felt at home. Very quickly we felt at home.
So does Roger Landry, who lives next door with his wife and 5 children. Like so many residents, the Landrys are thankful for all the advantages of a close-knit community.
Il y avait beaucoup de vie sociale.
There was a lot of social life, a place where we could raise children without worries. There were courses, and instructors came to town to give classes, social studies classes, animation classes. There was a lot of sports too.
One of those instructors is Gervais Pomerleau, who visits the town several times a week.
It was a nice place when you went there. You felt good. You felt practically like family. It was a very special town. It was a beautiful town.
Gervais has watched the eastern subdivision grow, even though it is constructed over an area known to the old-timers as les terres rompues, broken lands. In fact, the whole Saguenay region has a history of landslides attributed to the instability of the ancient sea clay.
The type of soil that provokes landslides is generally clay, and sensitive clay. When we say that they are sensitive, what we mean is, if we modify them, if we break the physical properties, it becomes liquid. And the sensitivity is elevated the more the liquefaction phenomenon occurs.
When we talk about the broken lands, we are talking about an area that has been known for at least 300 years, so the swamp was known to the people of the area. But those who were arriving decided, I am going to set up here. They didn't know any better, as they didn't bother to research the area beforehand.
My
mother was native to Sainte-Anne-de-Chicoutimi, and she knew the whole story of the plateau. So she said, "You're built on the river, and you should move away with the children." But I said, "Mom, the children are in school, and do you actually think that we could have built on a land that the government hadn't accepted? That was dangerous."
By April 1971, the land under Saint-Jean-Vianney is experiencing the pressures of a late spring thaw.
All of a sudden, a heat wave arrived. So after 15 days of this, the earth was crammed full of water, And on top of that, it rained and rained and rained. So not only was the ground full of water, but it couldn't take any more.
On April 23rd, some residents are surprised to see accumulating surface water suddenly disappear overnight without a trace. But no one is more surprised than farmer Petra Blackburn when he discovers that part of his grazing land has also disappeared, leaving a slide scar 60 meters wide and 150 meters long. It is just one of many clues around Saint-Jean-Vianney that point to something strange going on underground.
Once there was a gardener who decides, I will clean up and organize my yard. He brings out his shovel, his hoe, and all is well. The next morning, well, he goes out and there is no more shovel and no more hoe and no more rake. And he can see the shapes of the tools gone into the ground.
By the evening of Tuesday, May 4th, the village is enjoying clear skies after several days of heavy rain. In the eastern subdivision, 11-year-old Marlène Boilly's mother calls her in to do her homework. Her father is working the night shift at the Alcan plant 10 kilometers away. In the town center, Gervais Pomerleau is teaching a survival course at the town hall.
These classes finished around 9:30 p.m. We left the city hall and one of the guys said, let's have a beer at my house and watch a bit of the game.
In homes throughout the subdivision, people have stayed up to watch the Stanley Cup playoffs as the Montreal Canadiens take the game into overtime. At the Boilly home, however, the children are already in bed.
I had school the next morning, and the rule at our place was that at 9 o'clock, all the kids went to bed.
In a neighboring home, Lisa Laforge calls a friend to tell her that something strange is happening. Lisa can see the distant lights of Chicoutimi from her window, a view normally obscured by a 9-meter-high hill. That hill no longer exists. On the farm of Petra Blackburn, the clay soil has once again broken down and liquefied, causing the hill to simply disintegrate. 15 million tons of mud, sand, and clay now chew at the Earth's surface, reducing it to a churning sludge that flows relentlessly toward the village of Saint-Jean-Vianney. Tuesday, May 4th, 1971, 10:55 p.m. In the village of Saint-Jean-Vianney, in the Saguenay region of Quebec, instructor Gervais Pomerleau and several students are on their way home. Suddenly, one of them feels unsteady on his feet.
He said, that's weird. I haven't had any beer yet, but I am already drunk. I can feel the ground vibrating under my feet. Well, I said, I must be drunk too because I could feel it too. From afar, we see the poles go down, the streetlights. You could see them going out. And of course, there were flashes from transformers of the hydro that were short-circuited.
What they are seeing is the ground breaking down under the village's east side subdivision, turning the unstable clay soil into a churning sludge. In their home closest to the slide, Lisa Laforge and her husband Montcalm gather their preschool children as the house begins to rock and appliances skid across the kitchen floor. They escape the house, falling 30 meters to a small island of earth floating in a crater of seething mud. The platform breaks apart, leaving Montcalm on one side, Lisa and the children on the other. Horrified, he watches as the mud sucks them under.
Vers 11 heures,
Around 11 o'clock, my mother heard people shouting in the street outside. Mr. Gagnon was passing in front of the house. Mrs. Boily, get your children out. The ground is slipping. It's sliding away. So that's when my mother shouted at my sister, Martine, get the children out. In my mind of an 11-year-old child, I thought we were leaving because there had been a power outage. I couldn't see any danger since it was as black as Lucifer's place, you know. So I didn't see any danger, but if the others were leaving, I was leaving too.
Close by, Huguette Lavoie is desperately trying to get her own family out of their home.
I said to the children, right now, we're leaving out of the front door. But my oldest opened the door and said, Mom, there's no veranda. I said, we'll go out the back, but it was blocked. There was nothing we could do, and then the house began to fall.
The family has no choice but to go out the window. Huguette's 13-year-old daughter is first, but her 11-year-old is too frightened to jump into the hole already forming around the house.
Then I said, no, my girl, we don't have a choice here. So then I pushed her. There was lots and lots of rumbling. It was louder than thunder, because there was also the noises from the houses, the wood that was falling apart. I said, it's the end of the world. We traveled maybe 50 feet, and Benoit said, Mom, the house is falling. That meant we saved ourselves just in time.
All around them, their once peaceful neighborhood is in chaos, as doomed friends and neighbors struggle to escape the roiling mud. One of them is neighbor Roger Landry, who barely escapes with his life, only to watch the life he knew disappear forever.
Mr. Landry had 5 children, and he was on the next lot, and he saw his house fall with his whole family inside.
In just 5 minutes, the liquefied earth devours over 30 homes, with many more still in jeopardy. Gervais Pomerleau and his friends frantically try to warn those still in their houses, many unaware of what is taking place outside.
I can remember one guy, and he is sitting with his arms crossed watching his hockey game. And his TV is moving around the room and he doesn't see it. He is concentrating so hard on the game that he doesn't notice. And the guy gets up to throw me out, and when he puts his feet on the ground, he felt the vibrations and said, "What is going on?" What is happening is that we are sinking. All night long, you can hear people screaming, and after a bit, you can't even move anymore because you're shaking so hard. Houses are sinking in front of you, then behind you, and all the street lights are gone, and you have no way of knowing where you are.
Wednesday, May 5th, 1971. At the eastern edge of Saint-Jean-Vianney, a thriving new subdivision has been replaced by a gaping crater 320,000 meters square and 15 to 30 meters deep. 34 homes are swallowed up in the first 5 minutes of the slide. Another 8 homes are taken as more earth collapses over the next 12 hours. Army helicopters rescue one woman from the roof of a car floating in a sea of mud. But while search and rescue teams continue to comb the giant sinkhole, they find no more survivors.
Those who got caught in the disaster, who died, I'd say it was because they were sleeping. They simply had no warning.
There are bodies found in the Saguenay River 11 kilometers away, along with the remnants of homes and furniture washed down the valley by the river of mud. More bodies are found in the St. Lawrence itself.
You see the destruction. You see the bridge that has been ripped away. And you see the houses destroyed, and it is a nightmare. Actually, you say it is a nightmare, but a nightmare is child's play compared to this.
Huguette Lavoie and her children are already with relatives in a neighboring town. Her husband Rosaire tries to reach her several times at home after hearing that something has happened in Saint-Jean-Vianney.
I knew there was something going on and called home, and the telephone rang, and the telephone rang, and nobody answered it. So I knew they left the house, but it couldn't be that serious. The telephone is ringing.
Rosaire realizes how wrong he is when Huguette finally reaches him. Relieved that they are safe, he still cannot fathom what they went through.
I couldn't understand that the street isn't there anymore. The neighbors weren't there. Many houses were gone, and evidently, I didn't know there was so many people gone.
We lost everything. All we saved were the children in jackets. They were even barefoot. I was wearing slippers and was in a dress. That's all there was. There was nothing. But the important thing is, we didn't lose anybody. That's what helped us get through it.
Separated after narrowly escaping their sinking house, Marlène Boilly and her family end up at the homes of two different relatives. Her father, Marcel, spends a frantic night, not knowing if they are alive or dead.
When he came home on the bus, he looked for us and he phoned everywhere we might be. And he found us at my Aunt Claire's. I think it was 2:30 in the morning. When he saw us, he was happy. He started crying. He grabbed onto us and he hugged us and then he cried like a baby. I think he was crying more than me. But when we heard him crying, we started bawling too. There were a lot of tears. We could have filled another river.
There will be many more tears shed for the village of Saint-Jean-Vianney. 245 families are forced from their homes. Hundreds of residents are in hospital, but they are the lucky ones. 31 of their neighbors are dead, many of them children. Government geologist Jean-Yves Chagnon is put in charge of a federal investigation. While the media blames village officials for not looking into the first slide in late April, an impartial expert concludes that the disaster could not have been prevented.
He concluded that it wasn't provoked by human activity, that it wasn't provoked by modification to the regime of water, except by natural modifications from abundant rain, quick melting snow, a considerable amount of water, an increase in erosion at the bottom of the slopes in the river, with the results that the landslide was produced. So the conclusion of the report is that it was an unpredictable natural phenomenon.
The geologists said that there was nothing that could be done. The geologists said that it was very unpredictable. But it wasn't unpredictable. There was so much evidence, very solid evidence that told us something was coming. But no one saw it.
The tragedy at Saint-Jean-Vianney brings important changes to regulations related to municipal construction and initiates careful study and mapping of areas where landslides are more likely to occur.
The positive consequences of Saint-Jean-Vianney is that all the ground in the whole of Quebec is mapped, and you can't build wherever you want. There are ground soil studies that exist that cover the majority of Quebec territory. This is a direct consequence of Saint-Jean-Vianney.
Unfortunately, these changes come too late for the village of Saint-Jean-Vianney. Several months after the disaster, the Quebec government announces its permanent closure.
Absolutely everyone left. Some stayed close to the Loyal in the region. Some left the area. Some got sick. Different kinds of depression, you know, after that. Everyone grieved because we loved our little place.
For me, well, it was a cemetery because there were bodies that were never found. After that, I never wanted to go back.
This sort of nightmare is like a ball and chain. A ball and chain attached to your foot like a prisoner. You try to get over it. You try to tell yourself that you don't think about it that much. But deep down, you know that you do. I am fully aware that it will follow me for the rest of my days.
Today, the village of Saint-Jean-Vianney is little more than a recollection, a sad testament to one of the worst landslides in Quebec history.
C'est un gros trou de vase, si tu veux.
It's a big hole of mud, you know, with sides and a forest around it. There's the churchyard, the steps, there's the school basement, the street, but that's all that's left.
Even 30 years later, I can say that there isn't 1 year when I haven't stopped in Saint-Jean-Vianney. I'm not even talking about physically stopping there. I could be at home and all of a sudden, I remember.